Hello everyone, Richard here again. Today I'm going to show you how to create your own dedicated VPN router from a standard router. I've done it on a Netgear router, this old basic router that I have here. This is a WNR2000 version 3, and I've done it on 2 TP-Link routers without any issue at all. All the routers connected to VPN without a problem. So in this video I'm going to show you how you can do the same. I may get this question on this video quite a bit. Why do I want VPN, and what is VPN anyways? All right, so let's go through a quick introduction to how the internet connects you to all these wonderful things out there in the world. Here we have me. I'm the person standing here, and I'm at home with the connection to the internet. I have an IP address. This is the IP address. Let's say, theoretically, that's my IP address, okay? And the IP address is like your phone number. It basically tells the internet where you are and how to send data when they send data to you. Like say you go to CNN or let's say Amazon and you ask for something like, I don't know, a cat photo. Well, they need to know where to send that, and they send it to your IP address, okay? So the IP address is like your identifier on the internet. And when you connect to something called a internet service provider, and that could be like Time Warner or Sprint or whoever you have. So you connect through your internet service provider, and then they connect you to the internet, and then the internet connects you to whatever you want. Okay, this is basic connectivity to the internet. The problem with this is this, and I'll show you what happens. Is that everything that you do from this IP address going through this internet service provider, Time Warner, whoever, and then out into the internet is traceable. In other words, if you go to I don't know, FBI.com, then basically your internet service provider can track that you've done that. And say you search for that on Google. Well, Google can track you and say, oh well, Richard, whoever is at IP address 7045182216 just looked for FBI. Put that in the database, and then they start tracking you, right? And then when you go from Google to say Amazon, Amazon goes, oh well, that person came from Google, and they came from this internet service provider in Texas, and this is their IP address, and they track all this stuff, and eventually they have a huge database about the sort of stuff that you like to do on the internet, and then they target your advertising to you. Then when you wonder how that advertising is so well targeted, well, this is a portion of it, okay? There's more to it than that, but this is basically saying the internet service provider is tracking every single thing you're looking at on the internet in a log file, okay? They can see it. They can say, oh, he searched for this, he searched for that, he went here, he went there. They can see all of it, and they track it. So, and if the government shows up and says, hey, show me everything that, Richard's gone and looked at in the last 2 years. They go, okay, there you go. They have it. Okay, so there is no expectation of privacy in what you're doing on the internet at all. Zero. Okay, zero. Like, don't think you're doing anything privately on the internet. Zero. Short of, let's say, going to your bank. But even then, they know what bank you're going to. They don't know what you're doing in your bank because that's an encrypted connection. But they know that let's say your bank is Bank of Montreal. They know that your bank is that bank because you have asked to go there to log in. So nothing in this communication chain here between you and the internet is private. Zero. Okay. So let's go next. Here's the other thing. Let's say you take your laptop and you're sitting down at your local coffee shop on the Wi-Fi, and you're logging in and you're typing away, blah, blah, blah. Well, the same situation happens again. You have to log into the coffee shop Wi-Fi, and then from there you go to a service provider, and then from there you go out into the internet. Well, there's one more step here. Anybody in this coffee shop Wi-Fi network can actually snoop at what you're doing. They can look at what you're doing. They can actually try and break into your laptop, and if you're sharing files and data to the internet from your laptop, anybody in this coffee shop Wi-Fi can look at it too. So there's no security there at all, okay? So this is where VPN comes in. And the whole reason why I have VPN is because when I travel and I connect to a hotel Wi-Fi or a coffee shop Wi-Fi or an airport Wi-Fi, I don't want I don't want to expose myself to that kind of data breach. So this is what I do. This is what VPN does. All right. What VPN does is it establishes a secure encrypted connection between you and the internet. Okay. So this green arrow is the secure connected VPN connection, and it connects through the Wi-Fi at the coffee shop, connects through the internet service provider, and then connects to your private internet access or VPN service, which is who I use. PIA, it's what it's called, private internet access. And basically what happens here is it creates an encrypted tunnel. So nobody in the coffee shop, nobody in the internet service provider, nobody until after you go through your VPN service can see where you're at, can look at and say, oh, this guy's in Texas and he's surfing with Time Warner, and no, none of that happens. What happens is you get a private connection all the way to this point. And this point is the VPN service provider. And the VPN service provider promises that A, they don't log your IP address, B, they won't give that information out to anybody, and C, they don't let any data go past this point. So basically what happens is once you go out from the VPN service to the internet and they try and trace it back, they trace it back to the VPN service, and that's as far as it goes. It's like, hey, that person surfing from the private internet access in, let's say, Virginia. That's what, I think this is what, I think this is Washington. Anyway, doesn't matter. It basically stops there and doesn't go back to you. So that makes you a private, that gives you privacy and makes you private. In other words, these guys can't trace you back anymore, right? Now, it's not 100% because there's vulnerabilities and so on and so forth. But that's what VPN does. It secures your privacy and your data connection to the internet against people who could use it in nefarious ways. Okay, that's why I like it. That's why I use it. And what we're going to do today, and okay, just to back this up a little bit, on my laptop I have a little client, a little connection piece of software that connects me to the VPN service from wherever I am. So I connect to Wi-Fi, then I open up my client and I connect to VPN, and I disappear from those networks altogether because I'm encrypted all the way to the VPN service provider, okay? But what I'm going to do here is show you how to create that connection in a router all by itself. So anything that connects to that router will be automatically connected to the VPN service and surfing privately through the internet. That's the whole point of having a dedicated VPN router. Now, what you can do with that router is plug it into your current network, and then anybody that logs into that will be protected from any snooping, or they'll have privacy and a lot more security. That's why I'm showing you how to do this. Okay, so I'll show you how to do this on a standard router in a simple way. Well, not a simple way, but I'll walk you through all the steps and why I'm doing it and how it works. And the whole point will be to have a 24/7 connected router to your VPN service. There's a lot of pluses to this. Number one, like for instance, private internet access only allows 5 connections, right? And by the way, this is not a free service. This private VPN service costs money. I pay like $3.30 a month to have the service. More than happy to pay that money to have the service because it gives me a great deal of security and peace of mind when I'm traveling and even when I'm at home. But I do have a dedicated VPN router. It is my Wi-Fi router, which makes it even more secure for me. And it allows me to, browse the internet privately, which I like. Now, basically, it is a paid-for service. I use private internet access. That's who they're called. They're one of the big. I think they're the biggest VPN service out there. But you do your own research on that. So that's what VPN is. That's how it works, and that's what we're going to do in this video. All right, I want to reiterate this for everybody who's watching this video because it's very important. None of this will work without this one thing. You need a VPN account. Okay, now I use private internet access, and you can see it here on the screen. And it's a paid for account. It's very cheap. Like for me, I'm using the service that costs $3.33 a month. You can go for whatever you want. Here's the pricing. This is the web page, and you can see up here, it tells me my IP address, my ISP, and that I'm protected by PIA. So basically, this is really not my IP address. This is really not my ISP, but I'm currently connected to VPN through my VPN router here, right? So, and you see that it's DDWRT. Again, it doesn't have to be the third-party firmware that I'm using. You can use whatever you'd like. Actually, you can use the stock firmware in your router, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. I may do a further video on putting that third-party DDWRT firmware in your router and using that instead. But right now we're sticking with the stock stuff. So just a plain off-the-shelf router, how to configure that to be a dedicated VPN router. But once again, you need a paid-for VPN service. Now, you can go with private internet access, or you can go with several others. I just find that these guys are the best. So that's who I went with. And if you look at the bottom, you see all the VPN features you get, right? But the key feature you're going to get from them is an account. You need the username for that account, and you need the password for that account in order to configure this router to do what it's going to do, okay? So let's move on to that. Before we start configuring the router, we need to find out a little bit about your network. And this is why. Because we need to know where your current router is at. In other words, the one that we're going to connect this router to, we need to know what its IP address is so that we can set up this the VPN router that we're going to connect to it on a different network. We're going to have two separate networks. We're going to have your home network, which is what you currently have right now. Then we're going to have your VPN router network, which is going to be connected through your home network, but not part of your home network. Now, the reason for that is, number one, privacy, right? It's going to be a separate network for VPN traffic only, number one. Number two, when you're on this, if you made both routers part of the same network, what would happen is if the VPN connection to the VPN router dropped, then you wouldn't know it. It would just keep you, it would just take the traffic and go, okay, well, we're not going through VPN anymore. We'll just go through your home network. And you would be connected to a VPN router thinking that you're on VPN and you're not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is set up the VPN router as a separate network that goes through your home network. That way, when you connect to the VPN router, you know you're connected to VPN. And if that connection drops for any reason whatsoever, and you're connected to the VPN router, you will no longer surf. And you'll know when that happens that, oh, I must have lost my VPN connection for some reason. Okay? So, and then you troubleshoot that. But basically, what I wanted to do is isolate the VPN network by itself so that, A, you get that privacy and security, number one. Number two, if it ever drops, you'll know because it will no longer connect you to the internet. So let's go get the information about your home network right now so that we can set the secondary VPN router, dedicated VPN router to a different IP address, okay? And I will put links for this stuff in the video description below for, the hardware and so on, and also the configuration that I use to make this happen, because there's a bunch of numbers and stuff that you need to remember. I'll put it all in the video description below. Also, if you wish to leave me a comment, a question, or even a suggestion, again, put them in the comment section below the video. All right, so let's go get the information we need. So over here, you see my network icon. I'm going to right-click it. Now, I'm hardwired. You may be Wi-Fi connected. It doesn't matter. Just right-click it, choose Open Network and Internet Settings. Scroll down to Network and Sharing Center. Click on that. Then click on Change Adapter Settings over here. And then you'll see that, I got Wi-Fi, but I'm not connected to anything. I'm connected through Ethernet. Now, it doesn't matter which one you're connected to. Whichever one you're connected to your home network through, just right-click it and choose Status. Okay? And then go to Details here. All right. And in the details, what you're looking for is your default gateway. The default gateway is it tells you two things. Number one, it tells you where your home router is, number one. Number two, it tells you what network you're on. So in my case, it's 192.168.0.1. So I'm going to take Notepad and put that in there. It's 192.168.0.1. Okay, that's, you know, and I can even just put it, and you can save this information you want. Home router, helps if I spell it right here, IP. Okay, so that's the home router's IP address, 192.168.0.1. Okay, we don't want our VPN router to be part of that network. Now you can definitely, you know, not go your own way and configure it the way you want, but I'm telling you the way I think is best. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Now, now I know what my home address is, my home IP address, my home router's IP address. I'm going to set my dedicated VPN router to something outside of that network, right? I told you the reasons why, because, hey, you know, if the VPN drops or whatever, it's part of a separate network and you'll know it, right? Number one. Number two, people can't go from the VPN router to the home network or from the home network to the VPN router. It's separate, okay? And that's normal, by the way. So let's go here to what we're going to set the VPN router. Now, the VPN, the network portion of the IP address is the first three octets, or the first set of three numbers on this list. Okay, now this applies to this network. It changes on different networks, but trust me on this. The first three numbers is the network number. Okay, so by changing the 192.168.0 to .1, I put the IP address of the VPN router on a different network. Okay, so we're going to call this VPN router. Now, here's the thing. The reason I'm doing this is because, let's say you have a different IP address. So let's say your main IP address was 192.168.1.1, quite possible. Okay, then you would have to use something other than 1. 0 or 2 would do just fine. Just basically whatever your third number is, or whatever the network number is, you need to change it to be something different than the one you're on, or else you're going to be on the same network and you're going to have a whole bunch of vulnerabilities. Don't do it. Okay, so in my case, it's 0.1, so the VPN router is going to be 1.1. If yours was if your home router was on 1.1, then I would say, well, then just choose 2.1, right? And then it's on a different network. It could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 54. It doesn't matter. That just as long as that number is not the same as the home router's network name or number. Sorry. So now we've got this information. Let's go. Physically, I'm going to show you how to physically connect this router to your computer, or how I'm going to do it. It's up to you. Actually, yeah, we're going to physically connect it. I'll show you how you should connect it to avoid any trouble with your home network. Since I'm configuring a TP-Link router in this video, I'm going to show you the TP-Link router, of course. And what I'm going to do is use just a patch cable. And this patch cable is a LAN cable that came with the actual router itself. And we're going to plug it in and physically connect it to my laptop. So the ports we're going to use to connect to are any of the orange ports, or the LAN ports, or Ethernet ports as they call them. And pick the one you want. It doesn't matter which one you pick, just as long as it's in the orange ports. Then the other side of the cable we're going to plug into the LAN port on this laptop. If you have a computer, choose the LAN port on the computer. Either way, you're going to physically connect to the router this way. So again, cable to the LAN ports and on the LAN port on your computer. So we've got our VPN account, we've got our username, and we've got a password. Perfect. We're ready to go to the next step. Now, in order to set this up, we need to know the IP address of the server that the VPN account is on. So what we're going to do here at the PIA, Private Internet Access webpage. Now, if you're using somebody else, I don't know where you would need to go to find this information, but on PIA, it's simple. You go to network. All right. And for me, it's best to choose a server in the country that you want to appear to be surfing from. So if you for some reason want to look like you're surfing from the UK, then you choose the UK and we go there. If you want to choose if you want to look like you're surfing from United States for whatever reason, then you go to United States, Canada, so on and so forth, all the way through by all these countries. They have 133 to pick from. They have 33 to pick from, so you choose the one you wish. I'm going to go back to the country I'm in, which is United States. And here, it's up to you which one you choose. There's 14 locations to choose from. Usually the closest one is better, but not always. I'm going to choose, I could choose Texas, but I don't want to do that because I want to appear to be in a different state than I'm currently in, primarily to show you guys that that it works. So I'm going to choose Washington. Now you see here that they say run test on all of these, okay? So you can run a test on any one you want and see how fast it is and then choose that one, okay? And you can change this anytime you want using the same procedure I'm going to show you right now. So what we're looking for here is the VPN Server IP address. And you can see that they have a domain name address here, right? FQDN is what it's called. And we don't want that. We want the IP address. So here we're going to hit run test. I'm going to use US Washington, D.C. And if you want to run the test, just hit the start button. You can do that. I'll do that. But what's really important is that you copy this information. The US, if this lets me do it, I don't know why it doesn't. Jeez, lovely. Let's try this again. Run the test, and yeah, okay. For some reason, now I can highlight and copy it. So right-click it, highlight it all, right-click it, copy it. If you want to run the test, just hit the run test, and it will go through. And it tells you the kind of connections that you can have here and the speed and so on and so forth. The ping speed, download speed. So when you're connecting through a VPN server, they're your internet service provider. And VPN is encrypted, and therefore it's slower than regular internet traffic. So this is the performance that you're going to get from this server. Not bad. I'm just going to minimize this out of the way. So again, what's really important here is knowing how to choose, and number two, getting that FQDN address of the server where it's at. I don't know why they don't put the IP address up there. Probably because it changes, but it doesn't matter. What you need is that. So we copied that. Then go over here to type into your search box, and just in here we're just going to type in CMD and enter. That brings you to a command prompt. Okay, and here we're going to type in ping, and we're going to paste that. Right click on the CMD box. You don't get the option to paste. When you right click it, just paste it, and then we're going to hit that, and then you can see an IP address. Okay, so the IP address of the US Washington private blah 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 is 7032.0136. So this is the IP address we were looking for. Okay, so highlight that, right click it. I know it didn't say anything, but when you highlight it and right click it, it copies it. So back to our notepad here. Here we go. And you can see that I already have that IP address here. So again, that's how you get the IP address for that server. And that applies to any server in the world. If you want to know where Google is, you can do the same thing, It'll tell you the IP address. The reason we need the IP address is because the router requires it, number one, to set up this configuration. So we've got the IP address of the DC VPN server, Washington, D.C. So let's just close the command window here, close this up. So part of the information required for us to set up the router is knowing an IP address of one of the servers we're going to use. And like I said, you can change this, use whichever one you want from wherever in the world you're going to plug this into, okay? You choose, you know how to choose now. So let's minimize this. So we're still on the internet. Obviously we're connected because we were just surfing. So we want to disconnect Wi-Fi. I'm going to assume that you've connected the router the way I told you to do it. So Okay, I'm going to just click on the Wi-Fi button, which disables Wi-Fi, takes me off the internet. I'm going to turn on the router, and we're going to go find out where the router is. Now, your router may be in a different IP address than the one I have, but I'll show you how to find out what IP address it's at. So, right now it's booting. You can see that the icon is changing back and forth. That's because I've just turned on the router. So right-click it, choose Open Network and Internet Settings. Go up here to, scroll down to Network and Sharing Center. Change adapter settings. And then here, you'll see that Wi-Fi is on, but it's not connected to anything because I shut it off. And you can see that the Ethernet port where the router is connected is identifying a network because I just turned it on. So I'll let that happen. Okay, there, it's identified it. So right-click it, choose Status, and then Details. And you can see that the default gateway is 192.168.0.1, which is the same as our primary router, so we're going to need to change that. But right now, all you need to know is that 192.168.0.1 is where the router currently is, because that's the default gateway you're connected to, and you're only connected to the router. So we know 192.168.0.1 is our router IP address. So we're going to go back to our browser here and open up a new tab. Type in that IP address, 192.168.0.1, and hit return. Okay, and here we're at the default login web page for the TP-Link router. I've reset this router to the factory default, so the factory default username and password are going to be on here. So let's do that. In the case of most TP-Link routers, I believe it's the same. Username is admin, all lowercase, and the password is admin again, all lowercase. And this is the first thing we're going to change because you don't want to keep the router on the default username and password. It makes it super easy to hack. Anybody can hack it just by Googling what's the default password for a TP-Link router. So we're going to log in, and because I've logged in after resetting the router to the factory defaults, we get the quick setup screen from TP-Link. We're going to click exit on that. First thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to do the factory reset on your router in case you don't know, so that you can follow step by step and have the router in the same configuration as I have it in, which is the factory default. Reason being, we want to start with a clean router without old configurations in it or anything else. When you do the factory reset, it wipes it to the day you took it out of the box and you start again. Now, if you want to save your configuration files, as opposed to, if you want to save the configuration of your router prior to resetting the router, which will erase all your configurations, you can do that as well. So let me show you both things here first. We'll go to System Tools. I hit exit on that, quick setup, and go to System Tools. We're going to go to Backup and Restore, and here you can back up the configuration of your current router. Now this is a good thing to know, because after you're done configuring this for VPN and it all works, you may want to back up your configuration and save it so that, in case it ever gets messed up or anything, you can always restore it and come back to the day that you set it up, which is right now. I actually do that every time I do a new configuration. I save it, and in a place where I know where it is, and then I keep going. So in case that my configuration doesn't work out for me, and say, hey, yesterday's configuration is better than today's, let's restore back to that day and get what we need. Okay, so here, to back up your configuration, it's simple. You hit the backup button, you get a file. The file is config bin. You save it to wherever you wish. You can rename it as well, but I just keep it the same and save it. And then you've got a configuration backup of your router. I don't have to do that because right now it's reset to factory defaults. There's no need to do that. But if you wanted to save yours, you click on this. And then you go afterwards, browse to where the file was saved and hit restore. And that restores your configuration to the original configuration. So if you're worried about your configuration of your router prior to doing any of this, then definitely do a backup of the config file and save it somewhere where you know it's going to be, and then you can always restore it after you're done if you want to go back to prior to this configuration. So that's step one. Step two is going to the factory defaults. So we're going to go here to the tab under System Tools, Factory Defaults. Then we just click on restore. It asks you if you want to do it. You say okay, and then it goes through the process of doing it, which is okay, restarting. It's going to go through the process of basically resetting the router and rebooting it. It doesn't take very long, but it's a little bit. And then after this, what we're going to do is come back in here after we set the factory defaults. We know that it's using the factory default password, which is admin. Username and password, admin. We're going to reset that first thing off as soon as we come back in, so that we don't have that vulnerability to the internet right off the bat, and we don't forget to do it. Do it first to get that vulnerability out of the way, and then we move on from there. And I can't recommend strongly enough to change that default username and password right off the bat, unless you want somebody hacking your router. Okay, so we'll wait for this to reboot. There we go, and it takes us right back to this home screen here. Again, default password, admin, all lowercase. Default username, admin, all lowercase. Password, the same, all lowercase, admin. Log in. And again, we get the wizard that it wants to go through. We're going to hit exit here. We're going to go to System Tools. And here, we're going to go to password. We're going to change this, okay? Here we're going to enter the old username and password, which of course is the default one that you get when you restore the router, which is admin. That's the username, and the password again will be admin, as that is the default as well. Here you can enter in whatever username you want. I'll enter in that and continue on here, and a special password to avert people from coming in with the default password. Okay, and when you do that, boom, it knocks you back out. It says, okay, now you need to log back in again. So here we're going to log in with the password we just put in. Straightforward stuff. There we go. And we're at the status page. Now, at this point, I want to point something out to you. Right here, you can see right here, we're on 192.168.0.1. Now, if that is not the default gateway of your primary network, then everything's cool. You can leave it there. But in my case, it is. So I need to change that from 192.168.0.1, which is currently the IP address of the router, as you can see up here, because that's the same IP address as my main router. So we need to change that to a network, like I explained earlier, that is not on the same network. So let's do that. We're going to go over here to network. And then we're going to go over here to LAN. And here, well, I thought I hit LAN. There we go. And here we're going to change this from 192.168.0.1 to 1.1. And this is going to require a reboot, so let's do that. Save it. And modification of LAN settings will result in a reboot. So I'll reboot it and pick it up after the reboot. And it may or may not bring you back to the default web page. So if it does not, just type in the IP address you put in there, whether it's 0.1 or 1.1 or 3.1, whatever it was. Choose that IP address, put it into the address bar up here, hit enter, and you'll end up back here. So we're going to log in again. And that's going to be under whatever username you used and whatever password you changed it to secure the router. And now we're at 1.1, which is what we need, right? So the next part we're going to go to is back to network again. And here we're going to start configuring this for VPN. So here, out of all these choices, you're going to choose L2TP or Russia L2TP. Same thing either way. L2TP stands for Layer 2 Tunneling Protocol. It's more secure than any other option on here, and it's actually the only one that works anyway, so at least with private internet access. So I'm going to choose that. Here we're going to have to put a username and password and confirm the password. I'll show you what that should be under PIA or Private Internet Access VPN. And the username will be a 7-digit number with an X on the front of it. That X at least as far as I know, is on every username that PIA uses. So it'll be the lowercase x and then a 7-digit number of some kind. I'm not putting mine in here because I don't need to edit that out. It's not something I want to put on video. So there's a bogus one for you. And let's go back to this again. Then the password will be a 10-digit character string like this. And it's case sensitive. So if there's a uppercase H in there, or J, or lowercase k or D, it all has to be exactly the same. So I'm just going to copy it. You can do the same with yours and just paste it in there. So let's Control V. You can't right click here and paste, but you can do Control V. And here we're going to go to the next step. And here we're going to change this from dynamic to static IP. Okay, so that's where it has to be. Next, we're going to put in the server IP address or name. That is the Washington, D.C. server that I got earlier by pinging it on the command line. So let's go back to that over here. And where did I save that? It's in here somewhere. Oh, here it is. So it's 7032.0.132. So I'm just going to copy it. Control V it over here. There we go. And next, it's asking for an IP address. The IP address you're going to put in here is one on your network. So in my case, my main network is 192.168.0.1 is the network name, but here we're going to put in 0. Let's say 85. Any number other than your default gateway on your main router will do. Usually just fine. Now, if you know what you're doing with networking and you know where your DHCP server addresses start and end, you can put one, choose an IP address outside of that. But regardless, if you just choose a random number, usually you'll be okay. I'm choosing 85. That should be okay. So 192.168.0.85. So that's an IP address on my home network, not my VPN network. So that's what I'm doing here. So yours should be the same. There should not be a 1 in here. It should be, well, it depends. If your home network is on a 0, then it should be a 0 number. If your home network is on 1, it should be a 1 number. So enough of that. So the subnet mask will be the same. 255.255.255.0. And the gateway will be the same gateway you use on your home network. Okay, so this establishes the connection to VPN, and in order to do that, it's got to be on your home network. So that's happening there. Once you get connected, it disappears from your home network. So DNS, this is important. Domain name service or server is something that you need to be careful about. Now, you could use Google's domain name servers, or you could use whatever your ISP is using for a domain name server, but those servers track your activity on the internet. So I opted out of that. What I'm going to use is something called DNS Watch. It's a company that is free. Anybody can use these IP addresses, these DNS servers, and they're more secure. They don't log anything. They're private, and they don't censor anything either. So use this IP address for your DNS searches or your DNS server, and I strongly recommend you do that. And I'll put all this information that I have here on the screen in the video description below. So I'm going to use this number, okay, and I'm just dumping it in here. So I right-clicked it over there and copied it. And here we're going to, and there's the primary. The secondary would be 6980 on the last 2 digits, but it doesn't matter. Just use that. Trust me on this. The whole point here is to be private. So after, that's why I'm using that DNS server, because it ensures privacy. It's fast. It works great. No problems. So hit save, and I may do a video on that as well. So I'm going to hit save here. And it will more than likely try and connect. I'm going to hit save one more time there just to make sure. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to let's go to status, see what happens. All right, so under status, the LAN address has got nothing. IP address is 192.168, exactly what it should be. WAN, when we connect, right, when we connect, you see how it has the option to connect here. It will display data here, but right now it doesn't. And that's cool because we're not connected. So back to network, you can see that it kept my settings. Hallelujah. Next thing we're going to do is, okay, so, and that is the configuration that I use to on my current VPN router, which is using DDWRT firmware, third-party firmware, but it'll work the same way on this stock firmware from TP-Link. And I may do a video on that as well. So here we're going to go down to, well, we've got the LAN portion and the WAN portion of this set up, okay? And it says disconnected because there's no way we haven't connected it to the main network yet. So here we're going to go to wireless. Next thing you're going to want wireless access to this router, right? You know, you want to be able to connect to it with not just with the hard wire, but also through Wi-Fi. So let's call this something that makes sense. VPN router, right? And leave the rest alone. Hit save. Okay, I'm going to assume that took. So I could go to wireless security and come back here, and it took it. Now it's called the SSID or the VPN. The wireless network name is now VPN router. Perfect. Now under wireless security, we're going to change the wireless password to something that makes sense to you, whatever you want it to be. You know, that can be anything. So I like using WPA2. Do not use WEP, not secure. Don't use this at all. They shouldn't even include this anymore. But if you know, whatever you do, don't use this as security. You don't have WPA2 Enterprise access, at least most people don't at home. So, and definitely don't disable it. Always have some sort of security here. Put in a wireless password, call it whatever we want. I don't know, some number. You choose what you want, and you know I'm not going to keep this here. I don't know, 5. Okay, so I chose that. You choose whatever you want. Here we're going to hit save. And now your Wi-Fi is set up to connect. So the VPN router will connect to the internet, no problem. And once it's connected, you can hardwire into it with a LAN cable into the back of the LAN ports. There'll be 4. There's 4 on mine. Maybe there's different ones on yours. And then not only can you connect hardwired through a LAN cable, you can connect through Wi-Fi. So, you know, if you want a secure VPN Wi-Fi connection, all you need to do is connect to this router, and that router will connect you to VPN through Wi-Fi. So at this point, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to move on to connecting this physically to the main router and show you that next, and then we'll test it out. Now that we have the router configured for VPN, it's time to test it. And in order to test it, we need to connect it to our main router. And what we're going to do is disconnect the patch cable from the laptop and from the Ethernet ports or the LAN ports on the back of that router. And we're going to connect to the internet or WAN port on this router. So like so, it's plugged into that. And now this other end of the other end of that cable is going to go into any of the LAN ports on the on your main router. So I'm assuming that I'm just pretending that this is my main router here. So the main router would go from the LAN or internet port or the blue port on the VPN router into one of the LAN ports or Ethernet ports, orange ports on your main router. Okay, like so. So then we've got 2 routers connected like this. This is the VPN router. That's the internet port, the blue one. And then from there into one of the LAN ports on the main router. Now that we're physically connected to the main network using a LAN cable from the WAN port of the router, then it can easily now connect to VPN. Now I put my username and password in there at this point so that, you know, basically you don't see that, and it's a valid VPN username and password. So at this point, I'm back to the status page. Also, I'm still hardwired connected to the router, the VPN router. So I still have a LAN cable going from my network card on my laptop to the LAN port on the router. I connected another patch cable from the WAN port to my main router LAN ports without any issue at all. And the reason I did that is, number one, so that you can see this thing connecting. And number two, I'm going to show, we're going to connect to it through Wi-Fi next. But right now, I just want to show you what happens when you do that. It will connect, right, like this. So I'm going to hit connect. All right. And now I'm connected. It says I'm connected. If you go to status, back to status, you see that I have an IP address. And it's not anything that we put in there. So right at this point, I'm going to go and disconnect the cable from the back, from the WAN port, and see what happens. And it should disconnect. I want to hit refresh on the status because it can't any longer be connected. See, there it is. So, again, I'm disconnected. So I'm going to plug the WAN port or the internet port back, cable back into the internet port on the VPN router, and it should automatically connect. We'll see. Ta-da, just as it should. So now it's reconnected again, okay? So next, we're going to connect to this through Wi-Fi. So I'm going to disconnect the LAN cable from the laptop and the VPN router, and then connect to it through Wi-Fi. At this point, we have a VPN configured router. Should be connected through VPN currently. We've disconnected the LAN cable from the computer that configured it. So now the only cable connected to that router is the one from the internet port or WAN port to our home network on the LAN side of the router. So this router is currently connected to the internet through VPN. Next, what we're going to do is connect to it using Wi-Fi. Since we're no longer connected through a hard cable, we want to be able to connect to it through Wi-Fi. So let's go down to our network icon down here. And there's, I'm going to tell it to forget that just in case. Okay, there's VPN router. It's a brand new connection to me. I've obviously connected to it before, but I'm pretending it's brand new. And automatically, it wants to connect automatically. I'm going to choose not to do that. I want to be able to pick when I go onto that Wi-Fi VPN router, and pick and choose. So I'm going to say not to connect automatically. If you want it to connect automatically every time the computer sees it, then keep that check mark there. Here we're going to hit connect, and here we're going to type in the SSID password, which I remember. There we go. Hopefully you remember what you put into those Wi-Fi parameters. And we'll let it connect. It says you're connected. Now you want to verify that you're connected. Just hit the connection, go to properties. And the IP address should be on the 192.168.1 network. And it is, as you can see. And the second way to verify it is to go to the home router's web page. So we'll do that. That is 192.168.1.1. There we go. Let's log into it. And with the username and password we put in, bang, it says we're connected. Well, it doesn't say we're connected, but you can tell we're connected because you have a disconnect button, not a connect button. So that's cool. Let's go over here to, well, actually we're done with this. We're on Wi-Fi, we're connected to it, so that means we're cool. Next thing we want to do is test this out a little bit. This is where it gets fun, and I'll show you why. So let's go to PIA, which is private internet access, my VPN server or service, and you can see that I'm connected. And the nice thing about this is it tells you your IP address right there, right? And it tells you your ISP, which is PIA, and you are protected by PIA. So it knows we're connected to it right now, right? It should, because we are. Now, this IP address is not our IP address. This is not where I am at. So I'm going to hit copy on that. Let's see if what we get when we go to that IP address. Nothing. Perfect, right? This is your IP address. This is what happens. Nothing. So that's kind of cool, but that's not the test. Let's go here to, let's do some VPN testing. So first thing we're going to test for is something called a DNS leak. So here I'm going to type in DNS and leak. And you're going to get the DNS leak test here, dnsleaktest.com. and it gives us the same IP address, which is not mine. It says it's an Ashburn. So I live in Temple, Texas. So this proves that I'm not using my IP address. I'm using PIA's IP address. Now, what a DNS leak is that it says, okay, you may be VPN protected, but if you're using a tracking DNS server, then you're not so protected. You're sort of protected, but you're not fully protected. So hit standard test. Uh-oh, what's all this? Right? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Google IP addresses for DNS. So somehow my computer has managed to hook up the DNS servers from Google. How did I do that? Let me show you how that happened. This is something I didn't show you initially when we set up the network card, but here we go. I'll show you now. So right-click the network icon, choose Open Network and Internet Settings. Okay, so click on that. So this is some special stuff for you guys. So you know, like I said, I like to add value, and I'll show you where I'm going to add value here. Okay, and this is big because I'll tell you why here in a second. So back to this. We went to Network and Sharing Center. Then we went to Change Adapter Settings. And there's our VPN router Wi-Fi connection. Okay, I'm going to right-click that, and we're going to choose Properties. All right, and in here, you'll see all our networking properties. The only one we're really concerned about is right here, Internet Protocol version 4. Now, I disabled 6 because I don't use it. So it's up to you whether you do or not, but this is where we're going. Double-click on that, and you see that everything is set to obtain IP address automatically. Well, somehow, in obtaining the IP address automatically, it obtained Google's DNS servers automatically. So in order to avoid that ever happening in the future, you need to change it, okay? And I change all of these on these connections from automatic to the DNS watch IP address on every computer I have and every device I have, because automatically, for some reason, you always end up at Google. So let's change that to the IP addresses from DNS Watch, which are 270.40 for the primary. The secondary is 84.200. Hello, let's do that right. So it's 84.200.69.80. And here, we're just going to hit apply. Notice that the IP address is still automatic. We'll leave that alone. We want that to be automatic. But the DNS server will always be the DNS Watch private or privacy DNS server. Okay? So we're going to hit OK on that. Then we're going to hit OK again. That will reset that connection. And maybe you noticed that when I showed you the connection properties for the Ethernet cable. And I'll show you this here. Again, you saw that TCP/IP6 is disabled. But see, there it is already, right? I automatically do that to all the network configurations just to make sure that whether I'm on VPN or not, this works anyway. So this gives me a bit of more privacy even when I'm not on VPN, okay? Because I'm still using the DNS Watch server for DNS, okay? So hit OK, and you can, like I said, Google DNS Watch and see what they're all about. I love it. Works great. They're fast, okay? No problems. So now we've got that set. So remember, back to this, right? Go to Properties, TCP/IP4, put those numbers in. Again, I'll put those numbers in the video description below as well for DNS Watch. And then save it, and you'll be fine, okay? So let's do this test again. Close this all up, get out of the way. Notice all the Google servers, right? This is what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid this. We're trying to get private here, okay? So let's go back. Let's do a refresh here. And yeah, that should do it. Let's do the standard test. Oh, look at that. Look at the only IP address we get now. The only one we get is the DNS Watch IP address. right? So that confirms that VPN is working for us. It's using a privacy protected DNS server, and everything's cool, right? I know some people who are more security conscious will be saying, "Oh, what about RTC?" All right, now this is getting into more crazy security stuff. It's a little higher level, but what this is something that's built into your browser that can actually reveal your IP address, even if you're on VPN. Okay, so let's do the WebRTC leak. Let's go here and see what they say about VPN and WebRTC. Like I said, this is high level. You don't really need to worry about it. I'm just showing it to you. So let's click on that. Go to it and see what it says, right? So it's capable, right? It's capable of showing my internal IP address. And what WebRTC is something between this web page and this computer that are connecting and sharing data. It's part of the browser. It's not part of the network. So it shows here no leak, right? Then it says, ooh, public IPv4, this IP address. Well, that we know is PIA's Washington, D.C. server, okay? So we don't have any leak. So this thus proves that we've got a very secure VPN connection to the internet. It's private. It's not leaking any information. And if you configure your router the way I showed you to configure your router, if it's a TP-Link router, this is what you're going to get for a result. So at this point, we have private internet hooked up to our own dedicated VPN router. It can have as many clients as it wants. Just all you got to do is connect to it. It has Wi-Fi enabled on it and VPN through that Wi-Fi as well. So at this point, if you want to connect your phone to it, like say your smartphone to this Wi-Fi router, it will be protected by VPN. Once again, on your phone, I would strongly suggest that you change the DNS IP addresses from automatic to DNS watches. So this is the company that does that, private DNS, a privacy protected DNS. And you can come here to DNS watch /y, and it'll tell you everything that they do and why they do it. And you might want to contribute to these guys if you use them. And again, the IP is just a totally free service, works great, right? It's anonymous. So there you go. Outside of this, that's all the setup that I have for this router. I may do a follow-up video on the Netgear, because the Netgear has a totally different user interface for the internet than this. So, than the TP-Link. So I may do a video on that. So that's the lowdown on connecting and creating your own dedicated VPN router using a TP-Link router. This is the WR940N, by the way. This is a version 3, but it'll work with most TP-Link routers. All right, I wanted to put a disclaimer out there. There's nothing that can guarantee you 100% privacy, and certainly not me. I'm just saying this is a good setup for a dedicated VPN router using a cheap router. This TP-Link router is under $30 at Amazon, and I'll put links for all that stuff in the video description below so you can get it where I got it from. But again, for under $30, it's a fairly decent solution, especially if you're using VPN. And if you're using VPN at home, now you have a dedicated VPN router. Again, is there any guarantees? Certainly not from me. All I can say is it works for me, and this is what I use. That's it for my video on how to create a dedicated VPN router from a standard router. If you liked this video and it helped you out in some way, do me a huge favor. Click on the like button in the bottom right hand corner and give me a big thumbs up. That helps my channel, it helps my video, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, up here in the corner you'll see a picture of me. That is a subscription link. If you click on that picture, you'll be subscribed to my channel. As part of the process of doing that, you'll see a bell icon. When you see that, click the bell icon, and then you'll be notified every time I put up a new video. That way you can watch it at your own leisure. Once again, and like always, I want to thank you for watching and for your time.